Hi guys, this is an overview on your case study 2 assessment tasks. So you just click it here, you click the link, click. Then you open it here, click open, and then I'm going to open it down here, and this is what it should look like. It's on a Word doc. Brilliant. Okay, so we'll scroll down. Now, I want you to read about this gentleman called Iro Jones. He's male and he's Maori and he's 77 years of age. I want you to read about his history, who he is, what he loves, what he enjoys, and also some of his little issues that he has. Now, Iro has been admitted to hospital because he's developed a UTI that has progressed up to his renal pelvis. You will understand where that renal pelvis is because you've just learned the urinary system and listened to my presentations. So it's gone up to the base of his kidneys, basically. Because it's gone that far, he started to get a fever and a small amount of blood in his urine. So he's had to be put on to intravenous antibiotics for 4 days. So they've taken him out of his home environment, taken him to hospital for 4 days so he can have an adequate amount of antibiotics to get rid of this UTI. Fantastic. Now, he also has chronic renal failure and diabetes type 2. And the reason he's in the hospital is because he has a urinary tract infection. Right, let's go on to the actual assessment, which can get confusing. So we've done a little change. This is the rules and regulations of what we want. These are some fantastic headings. I would love you to copy. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Pop it into a new Word doc or write it down, however you're doing it. And then if you stick to these headings, you're going to get some pretty good marks. Right, so the 3 conditions that he has, disorders that he has, is a UTI, chronic kidney failure, and diabetes. Now, even though I've got that case study up there, I want you to forget about Eru now. Eru's not going to come back to us until we talk about his wellness. We're going to totally forget about him, and you're going to concentrate on these 3 conditions. You are not going to concentrate them on, combine them all together. You're going to pick them out individually and research them individually so you individually know what each one is. Cool. So UTI. UTI is an umbrella terminology for urinary tract infections. Sorry, get rid of that. And you can have many types of UTIs. You can have cystitis, polonitis, you can have urethritis, and vaginitis. So you pick one, which is relevant to you. I want you to describe the main body system associated with now you've gone the first one, individual disease or disorder. This will include the normal structure and functions when the disease or disorder is not present, and then when the disease is present, the abnormal structure and function. What's going wrong? So for a UTI, you're going to talk about the urinary system in general, using your workbook, using my presentation. Do not go into depth about the kidney, just in general. Go into depth about the other stuff. How it works normally, okay? Mainly to do with the urinary system. Now, if someone has a UTI, this is when you pick a particular UTI. And if you, for instance, picked cystitis, you will, when you do your research, you will understand that cystitis basically attacks the bladder, the detrusor muscle. So you're going to concentrate on then, you're going to just write how it is attacking the detrusor muscle, not so much the muscle, the lining of the bladder, and what's actually happening in the bladder. Brilliant. What are the signs and symptoms of that condition, the UTI, talking whatever one you've picked? Now, explain how the changes in the condition, the UTI, the disease, can be measured and monitored. All right. And then what are you expecting with successful treatment? So this is where you're going to talk about how urine should look, smell, quantity, volume, frequency. And if someone has a UTI, what are the symptoms of that urine that you're monitoring, so to speak, as a healthcare assistant? It would be smell, color. Don't just say smell, color, fever. I want you to go into what sort of smell, what color might it be, so you're comparing the two. Great. If the treatments that they're having is unsuccessful, what would you expect to occur and what would you do as a healthcare assistant to manage the deterioration? So here is like, because you're monitoring the symptoms and you've told me the changes. If some of the changes that are happening are not getting better, what would you do as a healthcare assistant to manage it? So obviously it's all about reporting, documenting, but it's about asking questions to your client. Timing, when I say timing, I don't mean ready, steady, go. I mean hours, days. Is it getting worse over hours? Is it getting worse over days? Reporting to your manager or RN as quick as you can. And if the symptoms are declining really quickly, you want to triage it from being basically, this is really important now, we need to maybe call an ambulance, or you need to prescribe something else, not you, the RN. Hope this is making sense. When you've done that, that might be just nearly an A4 page, not quite, okay? It might be just under an A4 page using these headings. Then you go on to chronic renal failure. Now, chronic kidney failure affects the kidneys. So I don't want you talking about the whole of the urinary system. You're really talking about the kidneys and how they function, and going into the nephrons and how the nephrons work, okay, with the absorption and the secretion. Go into your workbooks, learn about that and the urine flow. So that's what you're going to be describing there in question 1. If someone has chronic kidney failure, remember this is an umbrella term. So it does depend what type of kidney failure they have, but there are some basic signs and symptoms of the condition. Explain how changes in the condition and disease disorder can be measured and monitored. This is where you may want to pick a particular disease of a kidney, or again, you could go to stages. So kidneys can be from anything from stage 1 to stage 4, depending on what website you are reading on. So knowing if you want to pick a disease like polycystic disease on the kidneys, you can, or you can pick something else. This is where you can monitor change in their condition. You're not just talking about the output of the urine, you're also talking about swelling of the legs. You're also talking about breathlessness. They actually hold a lot of fluid. So go into a bit of research about what you're monitoring and if they're getting better or worse, which is really they get better. It's just more assisting them, isn't it? If the treatment's unsuccessful, like the dialysis, what would you expect to occur? What would you do as a healthcare assistant to manage this deterioration? Well, it does depend on what stage of life they're at, and it might be a bit more about making them comfortable, documenting, communicating with family. Do not go out of your scope of practice, guys. Well done. Last one, diabetes. Now, diabetes does affect the digestive system. The diabetes is a lot to do with what we call a gland called your pancreas, which you will learn about. Your pancreas has 2 roles. It has role of helping break down digestion, which you are going to explain. You're going to explain how the digestive system works, generally, function and structures. Don't go into too much depth about the digestive system, because what I want you to add on to this number 1 here is how the pancreas should work normally. And when it's not working normally, when diabetes is present, what's going wrong? I've got some great YouTube clips up, short ones as well, that I want you to watch. Diabetes is one of the biggest diseases in New Zealand as well. Well, it's 3rd at the moment. So this is why I think it's really important for you to study this. Excellent. I hope this is making sense. Signs and symptoms of diabetes type 2. Okay, what are you observing in your client? Mood swings, smell, sweet smell of their urine, forgetfulness. I said mood swings, didn't I? Yep. And of course, their sugar monitoring. Explain how the changes in the condition may be measured. So this is where you're going to talk about the sugar glucose monitoring, and also visual signs and symptoms, and what is to be expected with successful treatment. If it's diet dependent, then you will see a difference in the person. So make sure you do a bit of research on that. Now, if it wasn't working, if the treatment wasn't successful, if you didn't manage to get them into normality after giving them some sugar or take whatever it is the condition, what are you going to do about it? So diabetes, you don't muck around with it. If they have not got any better, again, it's about what's your next emergency step, so to speak. All right. But you would have had to have logged certain details before you can get to that next step. All right. So these have been 3 separate conditions, nothing to do with the case study, but they're fantastic for learning. Okay. Because it's the most common that you'll come across. Right. Now we're going to go back to Iru, our little guy here, and has all these great hobbies, all right, and he has all these little issues going on, and he's now in hospital. Okay, now I've got a clip up here of the Te Whare Tapu Whā, and this is the model I'd like you to use. Okay, so a holistic model of health, the Whare Tapu Whā. Explain the history of the model. Now I've got Sir Mason Jury, a bit of information up on there. I want you to tell me about him, how it happened, okay, and Mason, who developed it, how did he develop it, a little bit about Sir Mason Jury, and talk about the four walls and what they mean. That will be up to half a page. Then explain the impact of Eru going into hospital, okay, because of his current condition, the UTI. Explain the impact of how Eru has gone into hospital, how it's affected his health and well-being while in hospital. So as you can see, Edu likes to still fiddle around with small projects. He's not independent, but he does live on his own, so he has a little bit of independence. He is a little bit overweight, so he might be a little bit conscious of that, but he is mobile. He has hearing aids, prescription glasses, and we hope to think that when he's in the hospital, they understand and they know where it is. And he does rely on his carers coming in, which he has a really good bond with. So when he's in hospital, he's Maori as well. So think about his values, or Maori values in general. When he's in hospital, how is it affecting his four walls? Some of you have done some fantastic posters, and it's basically a very, very similar thing of what you've just done, but it's just I've now given you a scenario. Eru, who is a strong man, independent, had his own successful business for years, now has been taken from his home and his home comforts, and he's in hospital just for 4 days. How are you going to, I want you to tell me negatives, physically, emotionally, socially, and mentally. And then also I want you to put some positives on how you might overcome it. Okay, maybe explaining to him the procedures, breaking down the terminology of the doctors, telling him by being in there just for the 4 days, he's going to go home a better person, a well person, whereas it could have really affected him. Maybe helping him get online so he could talk to his family. I don't know. You know. Okay, you're answering the question. I don't want this any more than an A4 page. All right. But if you have to go further because you've put some beautiful paragraphs and pictures, so be it. Email me, text me, ring me if you have any problems. Here's the rubric. I had to do little things on it. Understand the structure and functions of the normal and what's going wrong, abnormal body system and response management. So if you've really done a good description of the pancreas and digestive system and what's going wrong when someone has diabetes, you're going to get top marks. Same with the UTI, same with chronic renal failure. Here then, understand the symptoms of the abnormal body system's function and appropriate response management. So what are all the symptoms and why are those symptoms happening? Okay. And how are you responding to them, which is that third question. Cool. Well, third and fourth question you can see there. So a little bit of depth there. And then this is all about the Te Whare Tapu Whā, the wellness bottle. How was it made and how is it affecting Eru? Cool. And that's worth 15 points. So again, that is where I want to recognize you as a health carer and go, wow, they're not just looking after his UTI, they are looking after his complete wellness. All right, I hope this makes sense, guys. There's a lot of going on. Go over it again and again and again. Email me, ask questions. All the best. You've got this. Come on. How do I stop?